What's up, guys? Welcome to part 3 of 4 of my Ayahuasca recap, which I had just a few weeks ago here in Costa Rica at Rythmia. And tonight I'm going to talk about, or today in this video, I'm going to talk about night 3, which at Rythmia they call Ladies' Night. And the whole point of night 3 is about calling forth the feminine maternal energy of ayahuasca. Ayahuasca is traditionally known in all the shamanic traditions as a feminine plant, and many oftentimes referred to as Mother Aya or Mother Ayahuasca. And it's a very nurturing but stern mother who will give you what you need, maybe not always what you want. And for those of you who watched my video about night 2, you'll know that night 2 was an incredibly blissful experience for me. So going into night 3, I was feeling really good. I was feeling really centered. I was feeling almost mistakenly as I found out that I kind of was getting the hang of this medicine. And night 3, again, we drank the Brazilian Santo Daime brew, the same drink that we had on the first night where I experienced my own death and a lot of darkness. And I went into night 3 with a very clear intention, which was to be a source and a beacon of love for everybody in the ceremony, in the Maloka. Because I felt like the night before I had had such a beautiful transcendent experience of love and of really like solidifying my clarity of purpose and intention. So I really wanted to kind of be just a service and almost be like a shaman in training and somebody who could just kind of like send love to people. So I went in with that intention. I remember we walked in the Maloka, everybody's feeling great, groovy, like people are feeling good, you know, we're smiling, we're hugging. It's ladies' night, all the women, sorry, I forgot to mention. So ladies' night at Rythmia means that there's an intention to bring out the divine feminine and to celebrate that. And also it's entirely, it's run by a female shaman, a beautiful, amazing lady named Raven who works at Rythmia. And so yeah, there's this emphasis on the feminine energy, which is this wild, sort of untamed, full of love and life energy, whereas traditionally in Taoist and yogic tantric traditions, the masculine is a lot more stable and steady, and it's the conscious witness that watches the dance of the feminine, which is everything in the world, the unpredictable, the changing, the wild, sometimes terrifying, sometimes beautiful feminine. So anyway, I went in with this intention, and I took the first cup, and I lay down on my bed, and nothing really happened. And so eventually, about an hour and a half into it, the shaman calls for the second cup. I go up. The shaman, Chris, asked me, "Are you feeling the medicine?" And I sort of cockily just am like, "Not at all." Because I really wasn't. But I also felt like I could handle it. And I was like, "Yeah, like, give me whatever. Show me what you got." So he gives me what seems like just a normal cup. And I go back to my bed. And I just lie there. And pretty shortly thereafter, I started to experience what I can only describe as the most horrific, hopeless suffering that I've ever experienced. Whereas the first night was very mental and psychological and emotionally difficult, I was able to handle it because I meditate a lot and I was able to kind of be mindful, and I had the advantage that my body was peaceful the entire time. This time, however, my body felt like it was dying. Not just my mind and my emotions, but just my entire body. The best way I can describe it is I felt as though I was just kind of like getting compressed from the outside in. And it was just a really, really difficult experience. And I don't know exactly how long it lasted. I mean, it felt like it was lasting forever, but it lasted for quite some time. And I started realizing that in some ways this was a sign from the plant that it was almost a wake-up call for how I treat the feminine energies in my life. Whether they be the world, whether they be women in my life, romantic partnerships. In the past few years, you know, past 6, 7, 8 years, I've been very, I guess, disengaged in a way with my romantic relationships. And I just haven't treated women with the respect and love and honor that they deserve for the beautiful divine creatures that they are. And I really just got thrashed by the feminine for a good amount of time. And another really interesting thing to note is that a couple times I actually was able to muster up enough strength to raise my hand and ask for help for the shamans who were kind of walking around monitoring, seeing who they need to help, who they need to sort of like give positive energy to. And there's all sorts of techniques that they use, and they really do work. They're very skilled at what they do. And multiple times I actually made eye contact with a shaman. And the first time it was actually a woman, which further compounded this sort of internal thing I was having about how I need to respect women more. And she looked directly at me and walked away while I was in the throes of suffering. And at first I found myself getting really angry. And then another shaman walked by, a male shaman, Chris, who I had really connected with. And in my mind, I was like, thank God, okay, Chris is here, like he'll help me out. So I raised my hand again. He looks at me and walks away. So this is now 0 for 2 of seeking help when, you know, the whole time they're like, oh, you can ask for help. They're here to help you. And I'm frustrated because I'm suffering. I'm going through a hard time. I'm nauseous, but I'm not able to purge. I'm just kind of like in my bed, restless. And eventually I kind of had the realization that people have been helping me my whole life. I've been so privileged to have a supportive family, to be in a supportive financial position, to have parents that have been there for me in ways that, you know, most other kids don't have. And in some ways, it's made me a little bit dependent on people in sometimes unhealthy ways. And I had a strong realization during the ceremony that if I was going to get out of this suffering that I was going through, I was going to need to just ride through it myself with stillness and calmness and clarity and get through it myself. And eventually that's what happened. I was eventually able to muster up enough strength to get up, walk away from my bed, walk outside, go to the fire pit where I started to feel a little bit better. And the trip still lasted for a long time. Overall, the whole night was very difficult, very intense, definitely the most challenging night for me. But the two lessons I learned were, one, the feminine is infinitely more powerful than the masculine. Women are infinitely the more powerful sex. And I just have a renewed focus and intention to just honor the women in my life. It doesn't mean that I can't be sexually desirous of them or want them or want to be dominant in certain positions or whatever it is. You know, those are all parts of the masculine feminine dance and interplay. It just means that I really feel like my days of treating women as a means to my own ends are over. Just over. I just couldn't even fathom doing that without it being somebody that I really respect and want to honor for the divine feminine creature that she is. And the second point was, I realized how strong I was. I realized how much stronger I am than I've given myself credit for because I've had so much help in my life. And it's difficult to describe in words, but all I can say is I was able to independently get through the most intense suffering I've ever experienced and stand up and get through it and wake up the next day and integrate it and realize that that was a crucible that I needed to go through to show me how strong I am. And it's made me a lot less fearful of going for things I want. It's made me a lot less hesitant. And it was ultimately a very difficult but very beautiful, beautiful experience. And I think in some ways this is what ayahuasca does. It shows you your weak parts. It shows you the parts of yourself that you'd rather not face, that you'd rather not go to. You know, especially like I think about it, I went into that ceremony with the intention of wanting to help people and wanting to be a beacon of light. Cockily, like not having the humility to realize that I still had so much work I needed to do, that I first needed to learn how to help myself first before I could help anyone else. And I was thinking about it and I realized that, you know, whether the shamans consciously or unconsciously left me hanging, so to speak, I'm so happy that they did. I'm so thankful that they did. And maybe they skillfully were able to realize that this was a battle, this was a journey I needed to fight on my own, needed to get through on my own. So that was night 3, tremendously powerful, tremendously difficult physically very difficult. Still never purged or anything, like by purged I mean never puked, but yeah, just intense physical discomfort and emotional as a result of that, and really helped me to realize that the way out is to surrender and to trust in your own inner resourcefulness and to be your own hero, you know, as cheesy as that sounds. So that was my night 3, and stay tuned for the last video where I wrap up this series with the last ceremony.